It's official, our strawberry season has begun. We are picking strawberries every day. The race is on to beat the currawongs that reside in our backyard. And these are the strawberries we're picking. We pick them a little early just so we can beat the currawongs, but they are so beautiful. The herb patch is racing along, the sage is beautiful, and the tomatoes are growing heaps. I've planted some chilies, a very mild one, it's meant to be. I've got flowers on every tomatoes, and I put this arch up. I put in some purple climbing beans. They are my favorite to plant. I plant them every year, and I planted the first lot a couple of weeks ago when the garden beds were first filled. I got those in. We've put the arch up. I've just put in another packet of them, plus I had soaked some cucumber seeds, so we'll wait and see how they go. Today I'm cooking an extremely easy, cheesy tuna pasta bake. It is a family favorite. It takes all of 20 minutes to cook. I think the longest part is the cooking of the pasta. In the time that the pasta is cooking, like you can see, I prep all my veg that I'm putting in, and there is no specifics. It's just vegetables that aren't too watery. I have carrots, I have an onion, and I have some frozen celery and some frozen capsicum. And I've got a few spears of asparagus I picked out of my garden. I've got half a bottle of passata that was left over from making pizzas, I think, and some oil, some basic herbs, and some tomato paste. The main thing I find is do not overcook your pasta, because if you then have leftovers, it ends up a mushy mess. We don't like it that way. I mean, some people might like it that way. We do not like it that way. So I undercook my pasta by a fair bit. Now, to prevent having too much liquid in my tomato base, anything frozen I put in and cook off first. You can see there's a fair bit of liquid as the vegetables defrost, and the carrots take longer to cook. So I put in anything frozen and the carrots, and leave the onion and the asparagus to put in later on. As you can see, I've drained my tuna. Now, tuna soaks up a fair bit of liquid when it comes out of the can and you're cooking it. So I like to get that in and have that soak up some of the liquid. I don't like to overcook my vegetables either. I like them a bit crunchier in a pasta bake. So here I put some more oil in it. I've just put some basic herbs in. Get the onion and the asparagus in, just cooking that off and adding a small amount of passata, and just to see how much that tuna soaks up, because it's all about not having too much liquid. And I put in the rest of that passata, so that's half a bottle plus a little bit of water that rinsed out the bottle. You get that cooking hot and add in some paste. I just add and then wait for it to cook off. Add some more if I need to add some more. And there's this point where you know where it's not going to be runny. I've cooked this many times, and I always find that if I just keep adding and watching and add and watch, and then it gets to this point where you can scrape the bottom of the pan and it just separates. It's when there's enough oil and there's the least amount of liquid, and it just separates on the pan, which means then you can put your pasta in and it's not going to be too runny. Now I checked for seasoning, and being tuna and you're putting pasta in, you need to season well, otherwise it will be under seasoned. So you're wanting this mixture to have plenty of seasoning in it, plenty of oil for it to go across, half a kilo of pasta, and it still tastes seasoned enough. Now, see where I'm going like this? See how it does that in the bottom of the pan? That is when the mixture is ready. So I add most of the pasta because my pot isn't overly big and it's a lot of mix. I put in pasta, I stir it through, and then I gauge because everyone likes things differently. I like a fair bit of sauce to the pasta, but not too much. So because when you cook this, you figure out the way you like it. So I add pasta, mix it through to see how much sauce is going to be on it, and then I go ahead and either add more pasta or leave it as it is. And as you can see, I added more pasta. Turn it off the heat. I like to have a bigger pan and have a thinner mixture in the pan, scraping out all the tuna from the bottom and the tomato base, getting that all in there. Now I'm just going to lightly spread it out with a spoon and then change to a knife. It's really important not to push down your pasta and just keep it light in the pan. And then cover with your favorite cheese. And it's pretty much done. You put it under the grill and it's only minutes away. See this little bit of cheese? My dog is sitting behind me on the floor and he waits for these pieces, the bits that didn't grate in the food processor. That's ready to go under the grill, and then while that is grilling and I can't leave, I decided I would make a carrot cake. So I've grated some carrot. Here it is out. That golden crispy cheese is so delicious. And there it is, crispy and golden on top with enough sauce in underneath. It's so good. I think you could get anyone to eat this. There'll be no complaints. So moving on to the carrot cake, I've got all my ingredients. I've got some gluten-free self-raising flour. I'm adding some oat flour, some salt, some cinnamon, coconut sugar. Not measuring anything. Look, I struggle to take the time to measure anything, and it works out fine. Some vanilla. I'm going to chop some pecans. I found a recipe in a book, an older book, and it had 2 cups of sugar, and there's no way I'm putting 2 cups of sugar into a cake. So I decided I had a banana. This is all before my shopping is due to come, so I'm using up whatever I have. I had a banana and I thought, well, that's equal to some sugar. I put in dates instead of raisins, and I had a tiny bit of avocado oil. The recipe said 1 1/4 cups of oil, so I don't have 1 1/4 cups of oil. So I added some butter and some yogurt, and I'm going to use up the last of the oil. So I've got those all in a bowl together. I'm measuring out 3 cups of grated carrot and getting that into the dry mix. I've got 4 eggs, lightly beaten, and we'll get those in. And the mashed banana and the butter, oil, and yogurt. I just lightly mix that together because I have a little old hand mixer. It does the job. I just give it a pre-mix before, just so it doesn't struggle too much. now I've got the mixer going. I've got the milk there just in case I need it. The pecans and the dates are there on the board waiting to go in, but I'm going to get this all mixed up before I go putting those in. Just mixing it around, waiting for the changing color when you mix a cake. Now we've got the pecans and the dates in, and I'm just going to gently fold those in and get them mixed through. Now I've got a tin here and I've just lined it with a bit of baking paper. I'm going to get most of the mixture in, put the rest of the mixture into little patty pans. So a few little sort of muffin sized cakes, which are always handy to put in the freezer. And as you can see, the mixture has come together really nicely. Get those ones in, and then while I'm waiting for these to cook, I can't leave because I'm likely to go off and forget about it. I thought I would whip up some gluten-free sourdough pizza bases, fill my almond container and get some almonds on soaking so I can get some milk made. And there's some Brazil nuts I always like to put in, a little bit of salt. So I'm just doing these few little things that keep me on track. And because I've used the sourdough starter, I'm going to feed the starter again so it can get going. We have had some warmer weather, so it's living on the bench some of the time and the rest of the time it's in the fridge. This is one that I have feed with spelt flour and rice flour, and I have one in the fridge that is fed on oat flour and rice flour. Both work really well. The oat flour was a test and it seems to do fine. So it is solely full-on gluten-free. Now this is quite a runny mix, so I was making it because I was going to slow ferment it in the fridge overnight, but we ended up deciding to have pizzas that night. So I used it and it was good to go. Now the little cakes have come out of the oven. This is hot. You can see it's come straight out of the oven and it is really hot, but I'm tasting it anyway and it is delicious. So it comes out. It's all fine when you just change out different things. Here's the big cake. I mean, it's not the most perfect looking cake, but it tasted delicious. I made up a batch of my plant-based whipped cream to have with it. We just cut off pieces for dessert and heated it up in the microwave. Just give it a zip for a minute until it's warm and then put the cream on. Thank you for stopping by and hanging out with me while I cook and update you on my garden. I'd love it if you would subscribe if this is something you're interested in, and have a great day, and I hope to see you real soon. Bye for now.